My name is Michelle Bouchard. I'm with the Tribal Hub team and will be hosting today's webinar. Thank you to everyone for being here with us as we learn about the next level ERP, why tribes are turning to Dynamics 365. Joining us today is Matt Borkowski from the Arctic IT team, who has been serving as a trusted resource for tribes on their ERP journey. And joining Matt, we have Beverly Carmichael, Director of Casino Accounting at Graton Resort Casino. And Beverly and her team just implemented this technology. So it's awesome that you're here today, Beverly, to give everybody, an insider look at the latest in the accounting software from Microsoft Dynamics 365 and the Tribal Finance View. So really looking forward to hearing your input on some of this. So today's session will be recorded. Tomorrow you'll get an email with a link to the video. It will also be available on TribalWise.com. So feel free to share that to anybody on your team who couldn't make it today. The top 2 learning objectives to keep in mind while you're listening to this webinar is to understand the increased security of M365, D365, and how these applications naturally integrate with the technology you already use. During the presentation, please use the chat box or that Q&A feature to put in any questions you have for Beverly or for Matt. We do host webinars quite frequently, and here's a list of the few we have upcoming. You can always go to TribalWise.com to learn more. And coming up at Tribal Hub, in case you are a Tribal Hub member, we are having a member meeting on November 16th at 1. And we just last week announced that our Tribal Net conference is going to California in 2023. And we're super excited about being in San Diego. So at that, I think I'm going to stop screen sharing and turn things over to you, Matt.
All right. Well, thank you. And yes, I was excited to see the San Diego announcement. There's a few places as nice as Southern California in the fall, in September. So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to that next year.
Yeah, us too. Our whole team is quite excited.
All right. Well, thank you all for attending today. Looking forward to just kind of sharing with you why a lot of tribal organizations are choosing Dynamics 365 and the benefits that you all might be able to consider as you're evaluating kind of platform and technology changes for your organizations. And glad again to have you, Beverly, joining us from Graton as well, and looking forward to the presentation. So as we dive in, just at a high level, here's what you can expect from today. Tell you a little bit about why we are the ones presenting today and our partnership, and why with TribalNet, as we've met many of you over the years through TribalNet, why we are presenting this today, and then really dive into that technology stack. And the main focus will be showing you why many tribes, again, are choosing Dynamics 365, and then giving you, as time allows, a little sneak peek of just some of the platform features and usability of the solution and just the breadth of technology that's available in it, and then have some time for Q&A at the end. But as Michelle said, throughout the presentation today, if you have a specific question, please put it in at that time so you don't forget later. If it makes sense to address during the middle, we will, or we might save to the end to answer those questions. But as those come up, please type them in so we don't forget later in the by the time we get to the Q&A section. All right, so at Arctic IT, we are proud of our Alaska Native heritage. So our corporate headquarters, if you will, is in Alaska, and as of that, you'll see that we are proud not only of our Alaska Native heritage, but also just the culture and a lot of the fun that comes along, like with the sled dogs, as sled dog racing is so big up in Alaska. But with that, we have been working in the tribal community for more than 15 years. We've known many of you for nearly that whole time, and we have experience working with with over 80 tribal organizations across the United States. And we do specialize in technology for not only tribal governments and casinos, but also economic development arms and other areas of organizations that are trying to achieve and help bring economic prosperity to your tribal members. And as we said earlier, we are proud of our Alaska Native heritage. We are owned by the Doyon Alaska Native Corporation, which is the central region of Alaska, headquartered in Fairbanks there. And so we are proud of that and proud that our work goes for the betterment of our Doyon tribal members as well. And we are a Microsoft Gold partner. So with that work and breadth of technology across the Microsoft stack with tribal organizations, we're happy to kind of share that knowledge and some of that experience with you all today as you start thinking about your technology journey here in the near future. And just so you can kind of see geographically where that is, I myself, am located here in Austin, Texas, where we also have 65-degree weather today, but it's supposed to get in the 30s and rainy this weekend. So the state will probably turn upside down and everyone go crazy. But we do have folks located all across the United States as telecommuters and working in some of our various offices to support our tribal customers throughout the United States. But with that, let's dive into Dynamics 365, help you understand the technology and kind of where Microsoft is going with it and why it's such a great fit for a lot of tribal organizations. And really that starts with understanding and recapping a lot of the operational challenges that we face today that we are looking for technology to help embrace. And a big piece of that is we are no longer at a point operationally where it is acceptable for each department, each program, all that to have their own data silos. We talk with our tribal member services, and almost anytime we interface with the tribal council, really increasing engagement with their tribal members, especially on the youth side of things, is very important for a lot of them. And that idea of interacting with especially younger tribal members throughout your organization and having each department and program with their own data where they maybe have to go in person or fill out forms to change their address and make sure that health and human services and per capita and social family services are all updated, where a lot of that data can be safely and securely shared where it makes sense and kept confidential otherwise, right? But how do you technically achieve that? Both the confidentiality and security, but also collaboration that is really necessary to achieve our best services for our tribal members and our customers and guests, right? And that is that digital service expectations. No longer, post-pandemic, are people happy with going in and filling out paper forms and doing things. There is an expectation of service in our modern age, across the services that we interact with, right? As business people, as people in our daily personal lives, to be able to interact with our own information, interact with our governments and other things in a way that is digital and is self-serving as best as we can to improve the experience of our guests at our properties, as well as for our employees, as well as our tribal members, right? And then process automation. Right. No longer are employees very happy with doing repetitive tasks over and over again, where things can be digitized and automated in a way, and workflow is going to make sure that errors are reduced, right? That processes aren't slowed down as much as possible, and just to have a better work-life balance and improving the life of our employees so that they're also free to do more of the fun stuff at work. Look for ways of improving processes, interacting with customers and guests and those things, rather than just being bogged down in administrative processes. And at the forefront for tribal organizations is that data sovereignty, making sure that as you look for modern technology, which is almost all cloud-based, how can we ensure that our data remains our data, whether that's in Microsoft's, Google's, Amazon's, or our own data centers, making sure that our data is our data, and what is the law around that, right? So those things are all coming together that require new modern technology and new ways of looking at things. And that's really why we're so excited. And a lot of tribes are making that migration to the Microsoft Cloud and Dynamics 365 in particular. And when we talk about that, a way of kind of describing that process, if you're looking at a new financial system, you can kind of relate that, if you'll excuse my analogy that I'll use today, in regards of building a house, right? If you're planning to build a home, beyond the home, it is important that you start with that, where you're going to build a home, right? What is our neighborhood? What is the lot? Where are we going to live when we build this home, right? You want to ensure that you're in a safe and secure neighborhood that has all the utilities and services that you need for your home and your family. And for an ERP solution, that's what Azure is. The Azure platform really is that neighborhood for your ERP system. It's a gated community with world-leading cybersecurity protections in place, so you're achieving and exceeding the highest levels of compliance standards, right? And the police department, if you'll continue this analogy with me, is top-notch as well. The Microsoft is kind of leading both domestically and abroad with their digital crimes unit and cyber defense operations center, and really helping the FBI and foreign authorities find and prosecute bad actors. But beyond the safety of that community, right, you want to make sure that you have what you need, and that's really where the Azure platform shine. Is it's ensuring that those common areas are always up to date, right? Where you've got the latest updates and all those things, just keeping everything secure, keeping all bugs patched and feature updates available for you, but still giving you the control of being able to choose when your own lawn is mowed, right? So that you can apply those to your environments when you need, to make sure that there's no operational disruptions through this, while always being on and having access to the latest features and functions as part of that cloud technology. You're not having to wait 3-4 years and budget for major upgrades, which is getting pushed off because of the expense and the time committed. It is available for you at that point as well. But when you're looking at your neighborhood, you want to make sure that more than just your centralized neighborhood where you live, but that you have access to the community and the resources that you need and other services that aren't provided directly by that. And Azure meets that by having world-leading integration platforms available. So we call the Common Data Service, allowing you to connect to your other systems, connect to things like referral care from health and human services, your payroll department, per capita distributions, other things, making sure that you can integrate with other systems, maybe develop that functionality using what's called the Microsoft Power Platform as part of that. So it's beyond just the house that you initially built, but also making sure that you have the ability to expand and connect to other services and communities that you need using the Azure platform, right? And then beyond that, also taking a look at that for your IT team, right? If you think about at your IT department as the caretakers of all the different homes, the applications that are as part of your organization, they want as many of them in the same neighborhood as possible. So with Dynamics 365 being in that Microsoft cloud, it is part of that same security architecture as things like Microsoft, their Office 365, right? A number of other applications that are part of that, which is why so many IT professionals love Dynamics 365, because it allows them to manage one security profile with the same access controls, multi-factor authentication, and the access to data and how they share those and all things in one spot across all of those tools that are part of the Microsoft platform. You're not having to learn something completely new that you're only using and trying to maintain and set up just for your ERP. It's part of that overall ecosystem that really allows your IT team then to be less worried on a day-to-day basis at keeping the utilities on, right? And being able to do more value-added things like data integrations or Power BI and data analytics and things that are really adding value and are just more fun rather than just trying to make sure everything is patched and ready to go and that people have the right settings in place, right? But when you're considering a neighborhood, where to live, and where to create your ERP in this home analogy, you want to make sure that you've got good neighbors, right? That you're not the first moving to this neighborhood, or that you don't have a lot of other people that aren't like you in that neighborhood necessarily with the same values and goals. And that's where Dynamics 365 has become and Microsoft Cloud in general has become such a movement for tribes across the country to move there. We see that currently in the Microsoft Cloud, there's over 300 tenants, different tribal tenants, that you have 155,000+ tribal employees that are utilizing the Microsoft 365 services. And in Dynamics 365 itself, over 60 different tribal organizations have made that move. So you don't need to worry about being the first there. And you can also be sure that your neighbors there share the same goals and values and stuff for your organization. But specifically, when you hear me talk about Dynamics 365, what is that? And at its core, Dynamics 365 is a product name by Microsoft that is talking about their Microsoft Cloud business applications that are all part of that same platform, right? And today the focus is on that finance and accounting portion of that. But more than that, you've got supply chain management, shipping, receiving, warehousing, and everything that's part of that same platform. Project automation. So if we see this on the economic development side. Maybe if you have project-based organizations, have resources working on projects needed to be assigned and managed all through that. Field service, you have your technicians going out and working maybe across your different properties on your organization, on your tribal land, or managing your assets or those things, your preventative maintenance and all those things as part of your casino property, truly being able to use that field service functionality to manage the inventory, the people, the resources, and the schedules across all those people. We are very proud of also the tribal platforms, enrollment, family wellness, and court solutions that Arctic IT has built on Dynamics 365 that can fully integrate with the finance components. And then you've got e-commerce and point of sale functionality and marketing and communications to truly be able to engage with your guests and your tribal members throughout, all on the Dynamics 365 platform, where you have control over what data is shared amongst those applications and amongst the people and departments that are using that, while keeping confidential and separate the areas where that's necessary for confidentiality and business practices and best practice utilizations. But again, we are focused on the finance aspects of those. So specifically today, talking about Dynamics 365 Finance, and it's more than just a core finance solution. So we talked about earlier on the previous slide, you will have very robust financial management at its core, but then project management and operations in there. The retail and e-commerce talked about, that's really all part of that same finance platform, and being able to engage with your customers and your citizens and your tribal members, while also maintaining things like your inventory and your warehouse, and the transfers of that out to maybe the different venues and restaurants and places on property, while also maintaining centralized warehouse management, and those things are all part of that same Dynamics 365 finance platform. Now, if you'll go back to that house analogy with me, as we've seen over the last 3 years, just that heightened need to be able to interact with, access your data, and run your finance department, regardless of where you want to be. The Dynamics 365 as a cloud solution there does provide that for you. And for me, it's kind of like my family likes to go camping. But oftentimes I don't want to go backpacking in the woods. I've got a camper because I want to take a lot of those amenities with me from home, right? But what if I could take my entire house with me wherever I want to go and use that where I need on the road? It's kind of what Dynamics 365 allows you to do. Utilizing those same, the Microsoft Azure Active Directory, as it's called, you have the ability to control where someone can access the system from, where if it's just anywhere in the United States, as long as they have internet connectivity, is a common setting that we see where folks can access that information, use the information, maybe review and approve some workflows while you're waiting to get on a plane for vacation, or you're traveling, you're at TribalNet next year, and you got to get a few things done in between the wonderful sessions, those sorts of things. Using the native apps, utilizing your laptop or anywhere. As a truly cloud native solution, Dynamics 365 enables you to kind of take that home with you wherever you go, while still maintaining your full access controls that you have to ensure that only the folks that should be accessing and utilizing the system and data can do so. But beyond the application itself, again, just highlighting the power of the Microsoft Cloud in general, where you could interact with your data right from inside of Microsoft 365. Maybe right from inside of Excel, make some changes to data and publish that back in without having to save, export, import, do all that stuff for authorized users of the application. Or being able to use the embedded and available Power BI reports that come with the system, and also creating your own based upon that data for deeper analytics and stuff that's more specific to your organization. And being able to extend that using what is often now called a low-code, no-code platform, which is Power Apps. That is that idea of being able to maybe create something just like a quick app on a phone that is fully integrated with the system, so users can maybe submit a request on the fly someplace that gets routed into the system with no code written, natively integrated with Dynamics 365. And for those of you that are on older versions of maybe legacy versions of Microsoft ERP systems, a lot of those same ISVs that have created add-ons for older versions of Dynamics. Some of those favorite ones are working in the cloud version, Dynamics 365, as well, to ensure that you have that seamless transition to a modern solution like Dynamics 365. But beyond that, sometimes when we think about a financial system, we're not also thinking about the ancillary pieces of that, like the procurement and the fulfillment of that. Dynamics 365 does provide full things like vendor punch-out capabilities, so your users can go on to Amazon, do some browsing and shop, and when they're done with that, it creates that shopping cart as a purchase requisition right inside the system to go through, and then allows you to fulfill that back with integration with Amazon once fully approved, and creates that purchase order to order those goods automatically with Amazon there. Or once those goods come in, being able to fulfill those requests and route those around your properties. And then being able to take requests like a purchase request and turn that into an RFQ. If you want to invite vendors to bid on that, or at least see what's available, to have people submit that information through the system and track that. And then being able to consolidate all those into single POs based upon your procurement policies and much more. But it truly is a system that can manage your procurement and inventory and warehousing in very complex environments. And is Dynamics 365 outside of the tribal space, worldwide, is one of the most widely used, like manufacturing and warehousing, shipping, packing, ERP solutions out there. I'm very proud to be able to bring that as well to the tribal market. When we focus on tribal finance on Dynamics 365, and what Arctic IT specifically brings is that idea that we have now implemented this and been implementing Microsoft ERPs for well over a decade for tribal organizations. It's kind of marrying the best of technology that's available with the needs and our best practices and understanding of the tribal space, and what we then call tribal finance. And it's that idea of being able to bring the technology and the practices together to allow to really empower our customers to be able to make the best use of that in as most cost-effective way as possible. Giving a lot of the features and stuff we see on here, but even more than that, if you look at just kind of independent research, see that Microsoft now time and time again is being rated as one of the if not in this case, one of the most effective and cost-effective options for the value and the functionality that is brought with Dynamics 365 out there. Again, looking more than just the functionality inside the system, which is so key to a finance department. They're making sure that you're on the right platform, in the right neighborhood, so that your home, when you build that ERP home, that you're getting the best of what you need. So what are some of those additional benefits before we get into some of the more details of it? When we're looking at the features really of tribal finance with Dynamics 365, you've got your full financial and budget management. Oftentimes we see that folks are using separate, maybe requisition systems or separate budgeting systems, and there still might be times where that's the best fit for your organization. But you can really bring all of that into Dynamics 365 to manage those processes, your grants and your projects, and then consolidating across entities. And one of the things that we see more and more tribal organizations are considering is that idea of, we have across our entire enterprise, whether that's our gaming, our non-gaming, our government themselves, running their own completely different systems, which then means that when you're preparing for tribal council meetings and those things, you're having to consolidate manually this information from all these other systems. Well, in Dynamics 365, you can separately secure and create completely different legal entities all in the same system, or those few people that maybe should have access to run financials across all the properties, across the government, casino, and non-gaming organizations. Consolidate that all within one system while still being able to separately secure and manage those as completely different legal entities with no worry about gaming commission being concerned about the funds maybe being intermingled or those things, being able to completely separate those, but still be able to give you the consolidation and reporting and real-time reporting opportunities that can just answer more questions more quickly for those people that need that information. And then beyond that financial system is looking to say, how could we expand and use more of that true supply chain management across our enterprises? What sort of retail, commerce, point of sale, online e-commerce applications might be beneficial across our properties? Right? And then, of course, some of those other things we've talked about, the idea of the true security behind that, the cloud lifecycle management to make sure that it's easy to maintain and update, that you're always on the latest. But then because it is that Microsoft solution, and so many folks are used to using things like Word and Excel and Outlook, having a similar look and feel to the solution and how they navigate and work around just makes it easier to adopt with that unified interface that Microsoft has worked so hard on. When we talk about tribal finance and with Dynamics 365 on that, it is warranted to take a step back and to say, would our organization be a good fit to even explore this? And as we've talked with so many tribes over the years and their enterprises, and truly look at where is this likely a best fit, oftentimes, it's good to have at least 15 users on your finance team. It is an enterprise class solution, and if your finance team is smaller than 15, it may be a good fit, but it is likely that the solution is maybe going to be a little bit too large in certain areas and maybe wouldn't be the best fit for you. But one reason why it fits so well is that pretty much any tribal organization that we work with has pretty extensive operational complexity, because you're not only managing things like your social services programs and other things for that, but you also oftentimes have your own city and fire departments. You've got your health clinics and all these things, as well as then you start interfacing with some of your revenue generating operations. There are very few organizations as complex at that, and that's where this really fits so well. And then truly having a goal to manage and oversee your government using modern technology. Modernization goals is a term that we often hear in technology. And so if, as a whole, your organization and your tribal leadership is truly behind the idea of modernizing and using technology to better the experience for your team members as well, that these three things, if they kind of coalesce and work well for your organization, then the tribal finance on Dynamics 365 is probably a very good fit for your organization. But whenever you're building a home, going back to the home analogy, there are two different ways of doing that. If you've taken a look at the neighborhood or community where you want to live, and you've picked that, and you found that right, just that right lot where you want to build your home, you oftentimes have two options then, right? You can either work with talk to a builder that has a model home option for you to look at. You can see they've got the most commonly requested features in there, everything. They can build that more quickly. They can build that more cost effectively. It's not going to give you everything customized to exactly what you might want in a home, but it's going to give you a really good home in a shorter amount of time for a better price, right? And that's what we call tribal finance standard. That is taking what we've learned with our best practices over the years, working with different tribes, having different templates and ready to go, so that we can implement and train you and set up the system along with you in a quicker for a quicker project at a more cost-effective implementation, while giving you probably 80+% of what you want in a finance system anyways, and getting you utilizing that new technology more quickly, getting those wins in. And then later, also being on that platform that allows you to say, look, does it make sense for us to build that additional bedroom, in a future year? Does it make sense for us to have the nicer backyard that we wanted? Whatever that might be, the tribal platform standard is that kind of prescriptive approach or a model home way of implementing Dynamics 365. But we know that that's not always going to fit. Like maybe you've got the budget, you've got the time and the planning for that. You want to have that custom home that is deployed and built in a way that meets your needs outright. And that would be what we call a tribal finance custom implementation. That's where we spend a lot more time meeting with and understanding your detailed requirements, and then configuring the system to match that. And then maybe saying, for some of those very unique things, here's also some additional customizations and power apps and things that we can deploy in this platform to give you everything that you need. But with that, anytime you're building a custom home and ordering and picking all the specific little things that you want, it's going to take you longer for that home to be built. And it's going to cost more money to build a home that way. And in some ways, it goes beyond just the functionality that you are implementing in the system. Again, using that home analogy, sometimes it's taking a look at your furniture as well. Where if we think about our furniture, like as an analogy for our business processes, maybe you've had that same old furniture for a really, really long time that you just always have used because it was the couch that was there. When you're building a new house, you have to decide how important is this process, how important the way that it's been done, how important is this, maybe this really comfy old couch that we always have. Do we need to design our bedrooms around fitting that couch, fitting some of these old processes, this old furniture, or can we instead use the out-of-the-box furniture, this new furniture that comes and works great in the house, fits the bedrooms perfectly, and is most cost-effective? If that idea of looking at your processes and being open to modernizing those processes, utilizing best practices, as well as utilizing the technology the way it's designed, then that tribal finance standard implementation is probably a good fit. Where the tribal finance custom might be, we've got this very, very important furniture for us. We really need to make sure it might be very complex, but that's okay. We want to design our system around these processes, then the custom design is probably more of a better fit. But when we talk about the tribal finance standard, that kind of prescriptive approach, here's typically what that looks like, right? You're going to get your core finance, your general ledger, accounts payable, accounts receivable, your banking, but then with that also getting a lot of what's available in a newer modernized, making sure that you make those electronic payments and having the workflows and the tracking and the auditing and everything behind that you can utilize via do your approvals via your phone and all that kind of stuff. Being able to do your purchase requisitions and having the workflows around that and the encumbrance reporting and budget availability right in front of you while you're doing that. And being able to track those budgetary effects of all those transactions kind of along the whole way. And being able to utilize the most modern reporting options as well, the financial report designer in that, really training your team on how to use that so your finance team can create their own reports kind of ad hoc on the fly because they've been trained and know how to use these modern reporting tools, as well as embedded Power BI dashboards that come along with this. And then as you're interfacing with other systems to get started, right, utilizing the Excel templates that come with the system to be able to publish data directly into the system, making sure that you've got those ready to go so you can import your journal entries and do that we most so often see needing to be used on like the casino revenue audit side of things, or you're coming in from maybe external payroll systems if you have those things. And then in addition to that, some optional modules up front that some folks want right away, some are later, and that might be your grant management. Beyond your financial grant tracking aspect, but also maybe your grant budgets, your projects that are being funded by that, some of those aspects with the grant tracking, and then fixed assets management, right? Some folks need that in the system right away. Others that can be, building on that fourth bedroom in the future if you need. But oftentimes we're seeing that when you're migrating to a new financial system, being able to take a step back and say that, look, if we implemented these things in a prescriptive manner, utilizing best practices, it allows you to get into the system, utilizing most of what you need, and then later being able to grow into the system once your users have adopted it well or utilizing it, and it just improves that change management, improves user adoption, and also just gets you into a modern system more quickly than really taking a step back and utilizing that custom build, which there are great times for that as well to ensure that your investment in an ERP gives you exactly what you need. But as I've been talking here for 30 plus minutes as at this point, just kind of bragging on Dynamics 365, utilizing this home analogy, and we are very excited to have one of those individuals that has already kind of built their home in Dynamics 365, that has settled into the neighborhood. Beverly Carmichael here, the Director of Casino Accounting from Graton Resort and Casino. Beverly, thank you for joining us today. Just have a few questions we'd like to ask you as you stepped in.
Okay.
So again, would you start by just talking through kind of your process of analyzing ERP solutions that are out there and why you chose Dynamics 365 Finance?
Yeah, so as we came to the end of our management agreement, we had to find a new ERP solution, and we did some demos with SAP, Oracle, and ultimately Dynamics 365. And as we went through and observed all the different solutions that are out there, we kind of got the feeling that we didn't want to be a small fish in a big pond. Oftentimes when you implement a new system, the salesmen sell you the whole car, and then what gets implemented is, a car without tires or something. And we wanted to make sure that as we have these issues that always are going to come up with every kind of system or solution that you put in, there's always going to be something. We didn't want to get stuck in waiting and being at the bottom of the list, because we're not one of the big global conglomerates that uses Oracle or uses SAP. And with Arctic IT and with Dynamics 365, we felt that we would be able to get that partnership and attention in building an ERP solution that'll be good, for the long haul. It's not something that you do all the time or do frequently. When you choose an ERP, you're talking about a 20 to 30-year investment or more. It's not something that everyone does in their career, and you want to make sure that you're choosing a solution that will grow with the business and be good for the business moving forward.
Well, thank you. And along those lines, and then now that you're using the system, what do you like about the software functionality?
So like with any system you put in, there's people that don't like change, and you have that period where you've got to convert and win everyone over. There were a lot of things we liked about the system, the ability to, log in anywhere in the U.S. when you're traveling and be able to do your approvals using, multi-factor authentication and other stuff. To be able to, in the old days, we would print these P&L books at the end of every month and every quarter, and we'd put them together, and you'd have these large stacks of paper. And then at some point that went from being large stacks of printed paper to being PDFs we scanned and saved somewhere. Everyone had a repository. Well, now with Dynamics Financial Reporting, we have that built in the system, and every one of the executives is able to log in and run the report on demand for whatever time period or time frame they're wanting to look, and they can see how we're doing financially, and they can click into the figures and drill down into the line level detail, even down to being able to open the invoice that was attached to that posting in the financial ledger. And we really enjoy that. Like any technology, there's a curve, and you got to make sure you bring your people along with you. We really were excited about expense report management and wanting to be able to do expense reports on the fly. We haven't yet developed the Power app to be able to do pictures and submitting expense reports from your phone, but that is on our list for the future.
Well, terrific. Yes, thank you for sharing. Just especially on the financial reporting, right? The data visibility. When you're investing in a new solution, you want to make sure that not only has the functionality to help the finance department, but for your organization as a whole to be able to see the information that they need when they need it, to make the decisions that they need to make without slowing things down and having to get on 3 or 4 phone calls and try to remember where those previous month's folders and reports are saved out as. It's a great use case.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. And just in general, could you give your attendees today just a broad level understanding of what are you using the software for, like the different modules and things that are in place for you all?
So we use the general ledger for posting and handling our general ledger. We use it for AP, AR, expense management, supply chain for warehouse, inventory, procurement, purchase requisitions. We have at least 6 punch outs, as you were talking to and alluding to earlier, with Amazon and Staples and other suppliers that we use regularly, where the entire organization is able to go out to their website and see, oh, well, this paper's on sale this week, so I'll order that, and it comes back into our system and then routes through the regular approval process before it then orders with them. We use warehouse management. We use a little bit of the sales module. We've repurposed it so that we can, purchase things we keep in stock in our warehouse, like hand sanitizer or paper. If we keep that in stock in the warehouse, accounting is able to go into the repurposed sales module and place an order, and the warehouse will come and deliver it to us. So things like that.
Okay, terrific. Well, Darian, thank you for being with this to just share that information today, and there might be other questions at the end from other folks for you. Appreciate you being on and just kind of sharing your story of how Dynamics 365 first came to be at Graton and how you all have used it to kind of improve operations and finance for you there.
Thank you.
And with that, gonna take a little bit of a detour here and open up the Dynamics 365 itself. Just as we talk about it, and you've heard me say a lot about it so far this morning or afternoon, depending upon the part of the country you're coming from, to be able to see kind of what that tribal finance can look like up in there. So would you, Beverly, since I know you're on mic and those things, can you confirm if you're seeing finance and operations pull up right now?
Yeah, that is finance and operations.
Okay, terrific. Making sure that folks weren't still seeing the slide deck. So when I log into Dynamics 365 here, one thing to note is it's just a web address here. Again, as we've talked about earlier, this is secured using Azure Active Directory. My multi-factor authentication pops up to approve based upon the timelines and the settings that are placed in Azure Active Directory. So folks accessing this, it's the same security profile as accessing a lot of the other resources that you'll have around your organization, like your email and all those things in Office 365. So as we see here, utilizing what I call, oftentimes call the waffle, by clicking on that, it brings me to my Microsoft Cloud Home here, so I can see, the documents that I'm working on, collaborating with across the team. I could switch into Outlook or Excel or any of those other components, because it's part of that same login. It knows what I have access to around the organization, including in Dynamics 365. So if I'm in Excel, the system knows what data I have access to, so I can interact with the data right from Excel and everything, and update, run reports or other things. Because as we often say, the most widely used accounting system in the world is Microsoft Excel, right? And so why not enable your users that like that to do the most with it, while then always maintaining that audit and everything inside of the system itself. But taking a step back, we mentioned about the usability and functionality in the system, just as a platform as a whole. There are different ways of navigating and utilizing it. One of those most common ways is what we call workspaces. Since I'm logged into the system as an administrator, I see all the workspaces that I've said I want to see, right? So if I'm in fixed assets, I can access some of those key fixed assets items, general ledger processing, invoicing, whatever this might be, some of the HR benefits here. But I'm going to dive into bank management just because it's at the top of the list. It allows me to see some of what can happen with this, right? If I'm working on in the banking side, maybe I'm part of our tribal treasurer, that sort of thing. Maybe I want to import my bank statements and run my bank reconciliations. Look at what's open. Maybe I want to see my different balances of things. This is just a very high level initial use of things. But if I wanted to start my banking process, I might start here. Or if I wanted to see a little bit more information, just the way that I'm zoomed in here, I could see some of my graphs below. By selecting one of my bank accounts, I can see my trends of transactions in that bank account and see this graph of different things. I can highlight on all the different data points. Some of my data here in my demo environment, you see, is a few years old, but highlighting this, maybe I want to know what happened here. This was a major drop off. In these reports in the system, as Beverly was saying earlier, being able to drill down from financial reports to see the actual transactions and purchase orders and attachments, your data in the system is not static. So by clicking on that major drop off right here, I can see a list of all of this money going out at any of these days. Or maybe I have a particular check in hand that I want to know more about. As we're looking at these lists throughout the system, all of this is a lot like filtering and querying and subtotaling and doing things in Excel where you can add filters. And so as an example, if I want to find a specific check number, right, maybe I just put in a check number, I could drill down and see that here we've got a check for $500,000, right? But maybe I want to know a little bit more about this. So I drill into the check and I can see that it went to this vendor, Fabricam Electronics, but maybe I want to add some more information. But pretty much anywhere in the system, you have the ability to add columns, hide columns, subtotal by different things. So if I scroll down here, maybe I want to know who the, take a look at some of this, who the recipient type and recipient name was, right? So I press update. And I've added this, and it tells me that, yes, it is Fabricam Electronics, and this was a vendor. You have just some other items just to kind of help drill down, find more information. Then anytime you do that in the system, I'm sorry, yes,
I
is
was
there a
going to
question?
say, we can make that a saved view so that every time you come in, you'll always see it with this view with the recipient name and the recipient type. So you can save personalized views and everyone can have whatever is specific to them and what they need. And then additionally, if there's a view that you want to make sure everyone sees when they come into the screen, you can push that out organizationally.
That's great. Yes, thank you for sharing that, Beverly. So at this point, right, I added those additional fields. I could just say that, yes, I want to save this as my view. I'll just call it check info. And maybe I always want this. So if I said to pin as my default view, when I log into the system now, or whenever I bring up my, yes, I've only, in my demo environment, I've got a number of legal entities. But now every time that I come to my checks listing here, that check info, my saved view will be the default until I change that or set something otherwise. But here again at the top level, right? I'm just seeing the check, the amount, who it went to, but maybe I want to know, well, what did we pay for this, right? Let's take a look at the invoices that this paid. I can see, okay, well, this was just one invoice. It still isn't giving me a lot more information. I could drill down from there and even then take a look at where I can see the original invoice as well as the purchase order that this invoice paid, right? I could open up to see the details of that. So why don't I look at the details of this purchase order? And in this case, this is more of a hospitality environment here that I'm in. I could see that, look, this is when we were building out maybe our new concert venue, and we had to order all that speaker systems and everything for this, right? So this was that PO. This is why we had that approved invoice for $500,000 that went out and got paid, and why we had such a drop in the balance. And I could see, drilling down into this, see any attachments, like in this case, some specifications for the TVs that went up as part of this around our venues, all starting just with my bank balance dashboard, and then being able to drill in further to kind of see the where that information came from. So it's not static, it's available. I can answer those questions by myself, understand where that came from, and then address those as I need without having to involve finance or other folks to get me all the information because it's right there available in the system. There is also more of a, as we're talking about the workspaces, kind of designing around different processes, there are some times that utilizing more of a traditional navigation approach, or maybe it's module by module, right? If I wanted to come into the accounts payable section of this and expand all the functionality, I can now see all the reports and views and functionality that I have access to in accounts payable. Right. This is going to be a little overwhelming because it's everything in AP related since I'm listed as an administrator here. But again, your users are only going to see what they have access to, as well as the workspaces that are designed to help facilitate those processes in those different modular areas. But this is also a great example of just quickly highlighting the functionality available in Dynamics 365. It is what we call a SaaS solution, or a software as a subscription, or software as a service platform, which means that you are paying for the system based upon the number of users that you have and the types of functions that those users need. So for a fully licensed user, if given access by their security roles and everything in the system, you would have, by just having that license in place, you'd have access to a whole breadth of functionality. Right? We talk about accounts payable, accounts receivable, things that make sense, cash management and different things. But also, as Beverly was talking about, expense management, being able to submit things like travel requests and have approvals routed for that, and then match up expense reports when they come back to their approved travel request ahead of time. Even prepayments for maybe per diem amounts before they go on trips, that sort of thing, have to reconcile against. Other things like asset management, fixed asset management, not only managing the financial side of it, but also the operational side of what is our preventative maintenance structure. Do I need to create work orders and assign for people to go out and address? You have that functionality as well. If you're really getting into the supply chain side, where maybe you're managing all the different products that you buy and sell and store in your warehouse, being able to manage your projects and grants in the project and management and accounting. There's so much functionality that comes with it. Again, you're not licensing it module by module. It's that software as a subscription. So as part of that subscription, you get access to so much. That's where picking that implementation plan becomes so key, is really dialing into, okay, how much change is good for our team members, our employees, our staff at any given time. How can we implement the modules that we need most effectively and quickly to get in and start using it? Well, then also having our eye towards the future of how can we expand our usage and increase our efficiency in other areas across the organization, because there's so much functionality that comes with your subscription to Dynamics 365.
That's a great point, Matt. We implemented, obviously, the general ledger and the AP to start, and then later we implemented the purchasing and inventory and warehouse module, and then later we also added on a fixed asset module. We're in the current right now process of finalizing adding our leased asset module for the GASB 87 leased asset recognition. And, you know, there's just so much that you can do. There's lots of different Legos and add-ons that you can just build.
Yes, terrific.
That, if I can just jump in here real quick, I had a question that might kind of tag along with that for you, Beverly, from the audience. And it was asking, you know, how long did the transition take from the first, you know, when you started doing it till you were able to use like that first part of the product?
So we started the search at the end of 2018. We chose our solution in Q1 of 2019 and really started implementing, I want to say, April of 2019. We were supposed to go live with it, I want to say, May 2020, and then COVID happened and life changed. So we actually ended up going live with it in September of 2020. But that COVID time was great. It really gave me a lot of time. I'd already done training with the team on how to build financial reports. So I spent, 3 months at COVID just building out all the different P&Ls and financial reports, and we did a whole month of side-by-side training our current system and the new system. Every journal went into both systems and every process for a whole month to make sure we weren't missing something. And that initial transition for the finance side went very well. Some little hiccups there about where do I click and just learning the new interface, but that's just the transition and change that happens with anything. That went very well. I wouldn't say we had all the time that we had with the purchasing. We were a little more under the gun and a deadline that couldn't move, and we had some challenges internally with some turnover and getting the purchasing side up and going. So we have a few things that we're still working on fixing and making it work better for us.
See that we've got just a handful of minutes here. I do want to show just one quick thing, since I mentioned it earlier, is just the idea of the embedded Power BI. And there are a number of these dashboards that come out of the box with it. But again, it also provides the ability to create other dashboards and Power BI reports, data analytics that's either ran directly inside the system like this, embedded, but can also be made available externally for users, executives, or folks that aren't logging into the system frequently, to be able to see information that is pertinent to them when they need it, maybe operationally, even on their phone or other things like that. But here's just a very high level idea of these multi-tab sort of reports that are available right inside the system. Again, it's not static information, right? And if you were to utilize this across your organization, maybe for different entities or those things, gives you the ability to run dashboards for those that are authorized, maybe just for one legal entity or multiple companies, all at the same time, to kind of bring those together. And even be able to see some things like maybe a very high level income statement or budget to actual in more of a dashboard form, if that makes sense. Let me change my timeline in this example really quick. I'll just say in the last 5 years, get an idea of what that looks like. Again, these are just some of the out-of-the-box, quick, embedded dashboards, but it's more of that idea that this Power BI is a very powerful analytic tool that is part of the Microsoft Cloud. So when you're utilizing systems that are on the Microsoft Cloud, where you can choose what data that you want to enable for Power BI reporting, then you could really start doing some really cool things with it. And that's where we're finding more and more that when you have real technical folks or maybe part of the IT team that are having to spend less, that are getting to, I should say, spend less time maybe diving into just the idea of updates and keeping the lights on in the system, just fixing things and addressing the support side of things. Being able to learn the reporting side, being able to create cool dashboards and all that is oftentimes a great thing for the career of a lot of IT professionals as well. But with that, being that we got just a few minutes left, I want to open up for any other questions.
On this screen in particular, Matt, at the bottom on the left side, you have work items assigned to me. And this is really helpful to our organization because it's everything that you need to take action on is one queue, one little dashboard. You can click on any one of those and it will open up to a dashboard with everything you need to approve or review, and that's helpful. The workflows are funneling everything into there.
Yes. So another question that came in for you, Beverly, was where did this technology help you and your team the most?
We have a lot of help here with the financial reporting. We spend a lot less time preparing and distributing financial reports at the end of each month and each quarter. We love the integration with Microsoft products. So on any screen, I'm able to export it out to Excel, either just to take it and manipulate it. As Matt was saying earlier, Excel is the accounting record of choice, and so we still love Excel. But I can do more things than just exporting it to Excel and then manipulating. I can open up the actual journal in Excel and make changes in Excel and publish it back to D365. The import-export of the journal entries is very helpful to us. Some journal entries can be hundreds of lines long, and trying to sit there and hand key all that data, you end up with someone typing a number wrong or missing a GL code, and having templates already built in Excel where we do the work and just being able to push that or import that into Dynamics is super, super helpful for the entire team. It saves a lot of time from having to 10 key everything into the solution. The other thing we really loved is when you're in there and you're reviewing anything, if you hover over an account number, a pop-up will come up and tell you the account name. So for us accountants, we may learn and memorize these account numbers, but for the executives and directors and other venues that need to review this financial data, the account number doesn't mean so much to them. So being able to see the account name just by hovering over it was helpful, especially as moving to this. Sometimes you need to, most times you need to change and create a new account structure, new accounts that maybe you haven't used in the past. So that really helped that transition. When you go to input entries into the system, you can just start typing an account name like supplies, and it'll actually bring up account numbers that have supply in the name. And then you can just click and choose and select, and it was very user-friendly.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Beverly and Matt, for your presentation. It was quite informative. And yeah, I was just going to say, Matt, do you have your email? So there's Matt's email. If you have any questions, make sure to reach out to Matt. Or you can always get a hold of anybody here at Tribal Hub. We are more than happy to connect you to Matt and his team. And with that, Matt and Beverly, do you have a closing before we jet off for the afternoon?
Just as a thank you for all the attendees and for just, we're so glad to be able to partner with Tribal Hub here and just the community that's built around this. Just so as a native-owned entity working with other native-owned organizations and governments, being able to kind of come together to achieve what's best and helping the community as a whole. So just kudos to Tribal Hub. Thank you for the opportunity to partner with this. And if you have other questions, as we said, please do reach out to us. We'd be happy to help answer to see maybe how the Microsoft technology is or is not a good fit, depending upon what you need.
Just thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today.
Yeah. So, well, thanks again, guys. And thank you to everyone who attended. And I hope you all have a great afternoon. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks all.